Well, we're back here on Talkin Live, as you can see, we are live. And so we have a friend that drove all the way from South Carolina, and he's going to enlighten you on what's going on with waste, environmental, and what's going on with all this pollution that companies get rid of. And I hope my sponsors won't cancel my advertising, which is very few, so because he does the show. But this is a free speech network. So, Ron, here you go.
All right. Well, thank God for free speech. My pleasure to be here. You know, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I'm going to try to sit up straight.
Well, you enjoy it.
All right. Thank you. As we were talking about earlier, I've been in the hazardous waste business now for 40 years. This is my 40th year, beginning this month, in the hazardous waste business. And it's the only thing I've ever done since I got out of college. And it has been a really great way to make a living. I feel like I've done some pretty good stuff. I mean, I've personally handled some 400,000 drums of hazardous waste, sending them for disposal, all over the country. And I felt like I've done some good. I mean, it was a good, I did a service that I feel was needed, and I've stuck with it for all these years. And that's one of the reasons I've done that, is because I learned something new almost every day in this business.
Yeah, you do.
And it is, so it's a challenge. Things have gotten a little sideways in this business, and as they have in a lot of different ways. And so the bottom line is that what used to be a relatively simple thing, you work for a company, the company generates hazardous waste through whatever process. And hazardous waste, of course, flammable liquids, corrosive liquids, toxic solids, all sorts of other different stuff. And so they generate these wastes, and then they have to get rid of them, okay? That's where the problem starts, because EPA rules used to be pretty simple. You put the stuff into drums, you put a few labels on it, stack it up in the corner somewhere, then ship it off for disposal. You've heard of the whole cradle to grave route for waste, okay? Yeah. That's what the EPA was all about. Was the cradle is where they generate the waste. They put it into containers, ship it off. It goes into a hole in the ground, or it goes into an incinerator, and then tra la la. Everything's you've done everything right. It has changed in the last 5 years, and that change has put the companies in jeopardy, and it has really
it's putting people out of business, basically, is what you were saying.
Just about, yeah. Well, and I could give you some examples, okay?
Yeah.
A couple of the companies that I've actually done work for up in South Carolina, I told them about these new rules for the waste management at their facility. And they either didn't believe me, or they just didn't want to deal with it, or they just forgot about it. Who knows? Okay. Those two companies, within, 6 months to a year, they both got inspected. Okay. And one of them was fined, I think it was somewhere around $95,000. Okay. Yeah. The other one was fined $220,000. And these kind of fines are completely preventable. Easy to prevent, but they just didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so I want to help these poor people stop getting squashed by these inspectors. And that's the other half of the equation.
Yeah, when you retire, you can be a consultant.
Well, you know what? I don't want to be a consultant.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, consultants in my business, they have a bad rap. They do not have a good reputation at all. Because what do? They walk in, they look all around, they say, okay, you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. And then they send you a big report and a huge invoice, and they don't fix a damn thing.
Well, I mean, if you do your part, that's the main thing. I mean, I walked into Newbridge. It's not Newbridge, Bridgestone. Makes the tires and all that. Waste management sent me up there to go up there and doing assessments of all the different waste and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Well, I went up there and told them and asked them this and that, and they said, we got this, we got that. And I never heard another word. Okay, and then Waste Management called me again. They didn't pay me to do it. They told me, no, they told me go over here to where they have the aluminum plant over in
Alcoa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I went over there and went through there, told them about this, batteries, this, that. Never heard another word. And then they called me, Waste Management called me again. Will you go over to Volkswagen and blah, blah, blah? I said, no, I ain't going nowhere that you pay me because I don't never hear. I don't get no business for you. Right. I'm not doing. Then I have this lady that I went in helping her with solar panels and stuff, and trying to get rid of all this stuff, which I can, a lot of that stuff can be reused, and you don't have to throw it in the landfill, but or dispose of it. I mean, right. The cabinets and stuff like the inverters and stuff like. But I can, you can recover some money. But anyway, she used me just to get all the information, and then she started, going this and going that, and told me within a year and a half she's bid all these jobs.
Yeah.
And she had never got no batteries. She never got nothing. I mean, what am I, an idiot? I'm not that stupid. But, I mean, you can tell these companies that you're going to get in trouble. And I'm out of the battery business as far as I'm concerned. Except, the modules and stuff like that can be reused and stuff like that, that I can do. And but like Waste Management says, everything that's designated hazmat has to be disposed of in the right way, right?
That's absolutely true. And you know what? Over my years, I've been inside thousands of businesses because I worked for a couple of environmental service companies. And I went out every day. I went to this facility, did some work. A different facility the next day, a different facility the next day. And so I've been inside of literally thousands of businesses. And the vast majority, and I mean like 99% of the people that are in charge of the hazardous waste at these facilities, they want to do the right thing. They do.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, first off, nobody wants to throw all their hazardous waste out the back door and cause all sorts of problems and maybe even get people hurt. And so but they don't know what they actually need to do in order to be in compliance with all these regulations. Yeah. I mean, the DOT regulations are part of what I do. The EPA regulations are part of what I do. The OSHA regulations are part of what I do. And actually, look, I mean, come on. Here, I brought my book with me. Look at this thing. These are the rules that these companies.
Volume 1 or volume?
Actually, there are 2 volumes. I didn't want to bring the other one. The other one is the OSHA stuff. This is just the EPA and DOT regulations right here. Okay?
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. A minor earthquake. Okay? So there you go. That's
having you tell, right?
So how the hell is a guy that's just put in charge over the waste? How the hell is he going to know what to do? You give him this book, okay, and say, here's the rules. Get busy. You know what he's going to do? He's going to start reading, and in 10 minutes, he's going to be more confused about what to do with the waste than he was at the beginning.
Well,
Now-
the way I had an environmental work for Black and Decker come to work for me. He done all the environmental stuff. Mm-hmm. He looked up all the rules and regulations and all that. And this was 20-something years ago. He quit Black and Decker, went to work for me, and he handled all the environmental.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, as far as batteries concerned, before EPA started saying anything about them, I was taking care of the batteries the way it's supposed to be anyway.
Right.
Yeah, and people don't know that alkaline batteries can be changed into fertilizer. They don't know that.
No. And, well, look, from a business standpoint, hazardous waste is expensive.
Yeah, it is.
It used to be a lot more expensive. I remember when I started in this business, okay, they basically could charge whatever they wanted to charge because there weren't many companies that were actually getting rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, that reminds me of something else. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a moment here.
So how many companies you think's doing the right thing nowadays on hazardous waste?
99%. I've met some snakes. Okay, I've met some snakes in this business. They will do anything to save a buck. Okay, and that includes dumping it down the drain, just calling it non-hazardous when it's actually hazardous. I've seen a lot of people try to pull that kind of crap.
I had a guy tell me that he worked for a company up in Ohio, and they was dumping chemicals into the river for
Right.
20, 30 years.
Okay, yeah. Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Okay, because look, these legacy companies, okay, all the big boys, let's say, GM, okay, whoever's up in Detroit, and they were electroplating all their bumpers with chromium, okay, and manufacturing all this stuff, making tons and tons of hazardous waste every single day, okay. This was back in, let's say, the 70s or the 60s or the 50s, all right? Now, everybody rags on these people because, they dumped it in the dirt and they dumped it in the water and they did whatever they did, okay? But that's because there were no other options available.
Yeah.
You know where most of that stuff went? The local landfill.
I remember the carpet business.
Uh-huh.
They had this big old mountain. And they would dump all that. I was 15-year-old.
Oh, boy.
And they was dumping this nylon, burlap, carpet, remnants,
Nylon was a new
and
thing.
all that.
It was a new thing back then.
Big old mountain of that
Yeah.
stuff. I used to go up there and load it up, bring it back down, take the nylon out, pull the nylon out of the burlap, sell the burlap for 3 cents a pound, and the white nylon I got 25 cents a pound. The colored I got 10 cents a pound.
Okay.
And there was a guy named Solomon, a Jewish guy, that bought it from me.
Okay.
In Dalton, Georgia.
Hey, look, so you're the original recycler.
I'm 75, so how long has that been?
60 years ago now.
And so I know pretty well about recycling. I used to work for yarn mills too, so.
Okay.
And
Well, and so that's great. I tell you, one thing I've never liked about the waste business is because most of the stuff I ship out can't be reclaimed, can't get recycled, and it's just got to be disposed of. I mean, nowadays almost all of it gets incinerated, and that's that's the best way to do it, but it costs a lot of money.
yeah, but the companies that manufacture stuff, they don't plan. They don't plan what they're manufacturing. They don't look in the future and see after it's ready to die and it's ready to retire, what to do with it. I mean, that's like the solar panels.
Well, yeah, and the lithium batteries from the electrical vehicles.
There's batteries the Chinese make that you can't even sell it back to them because it's so sorry. The ones that, goes in these cigarettes.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Those suckers are so cheap manufactured.
Well, yeah.
Even the Chinese, the Koreans, nobody will buy that crap back. And it has to be recycled. Don't have no cobalt, don't have no aluminum, don't have the stuff in it that you can't recover nothing.
You use it once and throw it away. Okay, that's that's their.
I mean,
that's
and
their
there's
process.
a lot of stuff that you've done. I'd like to hear about. Now remember back in I can't remember what year it was, but the government had done. Our U.S. government had 80,000 drums of nuclear waste.
Sure.
In drums.
Yep.
They dumped it on the East Coast.
Yep.
Out in the ocean.
Oh yeah. Oh, ocean disposal was a thing for quite a while, because they figured, well, let's get it as far away from humans as we can. But you see, again, what other disposal options did they have?
Yeah.
There weren't any hazardous waste disposal companies back then. So they did the best they could with the understanding that they had at the time. Oh well. I mean, we're going to have to live with it now, especially the radioactive stuff. Hey, look, I've done work at Los Alamos labs, okay? These national labs that deal with the nuclear weapons program. Okay, Sandia National Labs. I almost got a job up at Oak Ridge National Labs. I applied for some work down at the Savannah River plant down in South Carolina. As a matter of fact, I love radioactive waste. I was a radioactive waste manager for about 5 years at a lab down in Charleston. I was fascinated by that stuff. That was so cool. I really enjoyed doing that.
I told the EPA, I told them, I said, you go around with your rules, your regulations, it's good. But I said, there's a limit to what people can do and make money.
Yeah. And that's why I refer what these regulators are doing now, I call it hyper-regulation. Like, look at, for instance, just the last few days, okay? Our illustrious president has come out with like 4 different edicts in the last week regarding EPA on the electric vehicles, on the liquid natural gas suspension of shipments, or whatever the hell that was all about. I'll try not to get too abrasive here, and then 2 or 3 other things. Okay, so yeah, they are regulating stuff. What used to be regulated to the part per million level. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, ppm, right? Mm-hmm. 1 part per million is a small quantity of contamination, and then now they've dropped it down to part per billion level. So that's one millionth of a million. And now they're going down to the part per trillion levels on the regulation of these contaminants. And that's a 1/1000th of a billionth of a particle of contamination. How far are they going to go? They're just going to keep going until we convince them that it's
all they know is writing it up. They don't know. They had never been on the street. It's like somebody on the street smart. They never experienced it, so they're writing up stuff they don't even know what they're talking about.
Right. Well, I mean, I've seen the EPA regulate a contaminant like mercury. Is another big one that they're.
Oh yeah,
that they're
I don't
after.
know
Okay.
part of that.
And they have regulated that down now to the part per trillion level in discharge waters from the public treatment plants, for the sewage. Okay. Now, as soon as the analytical equipment that could detect the contamination at that level was available, readily available, they dropped the regulatory level to the level of detection in these instruments.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to do when they can detect a part per what's below a trillion? A trillionth. That'd be like picograms of contamination. And then what's below that? I think it's femtograms. So where do you stop? And look we're talking about one of these self-perpetuating bureaucracies. Okay, they are going to keep going.
What about this railroad wreck?
Oh boy, that's
Yeah,
I've had a lot of discussions with people in this business about that. There were some big difficulties because we're talking about the East Palestine, the northern Burlington wreck. They had a really tough problem on their hands when they were dealing with that spill. Now, I've done emergency response work. I've been doing emergency response work with chemical spills for 25 years. Okay, I've cleaned up I don't know, hundreds of spills, and I've also done the drug labs too. You know, being in New Mexico for a while, that was fun. So they were faced with the big problem with the vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride's a gas.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a tanker that you can't ship it. It's wrecked. How do you get gas out of a rail car and into another tanker to ship it off somewhere for disposal? That's not that easy to do. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to some of the folks that do this, and so the logistics of actually moving all that material, I don't know how long it would have taken to do.
Yeah.
So they just like the companies that I was talking about before, the disposal facilities, they had to make a tough choice: burn it or spend a month shipping it off site.
Yeah.
And the railroads. Hey, look, I'll tell you one thing about rail spills.
Speaking of a month, this fire that this company sent me, and I don't care who knows it. It was Light and Resource, and they sent me trailer load with the water in them, and I told them, quit doing this, you're going to cause a fire. Well, I got so nervous I went and got some insurance to make sure if I did.
Good idea.
Yeah. Well, it happened.
Wow.
And then they turned around after the fire, sent me more batteries and buckets with water. And I made them take them back.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but I mean, I don't. If they hear what I'm saying, you want to go to court? God, I tell the truth. We'll go right anytime you get ready.
Okay.
But I do know that I tried to tell them, and then the EPA blamed it on me.
Well, they have to blame somebody.
And I told them, they told me, he said, you started a fire. I said, I didn't start no fire. Don't you say I did either. Hey, my goal in life for 30 years is to keep stuff out of the landfill.
Uh-huh.
And I've helped stuff that was maybe plastic manufactured, it was manufactured. It wasn't hazardous waste or nothing like that.
Right.
But I kept it for a long time until I found somebody that wanted it.
Okay.
And I kept a lot of plastic out of the landfill. I mean, millions of pounds I kept out of the landfills.
Right. You know, you bring something to mind. Okay. Now, one of the things that I'm not proud of in my work in this industry, in the hazardous waste industry, is that I have shipped. There's an old landfill. It was a chemical waste landfill, if I remember correctly, up in Pinewood, South Carolina. I shipped thousands and thousands and thousands of drums of flammable sludges, corrosive liquids, cyanides to that landfill. Now, it's a special landfill, okay? It's a chemical landfill. It was a permitted chemical landfill. They're hardly perfect, of course.
Waste Management owns some of them places.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure they owned that one. It was a chemical waste management. So, I'm not proud of that. I wish there was a better way to do it at that time. It might have been available. But I tell you what, I could almost guarantee you that the resources, the disposal options were available. But you know what? It was cheaper to send a drum to landfill than it was to send to an incinerator every time.
Well,
So what do you think the companies did? Now, what I have to give EPA some credit. Okay, I'll try to be as fair as I can with EPA. They then, when they kind of figured this out, they said, "Look, all this crap is going to these landfills. We got to stop this," and they did. They literally stopped all that stuff from going to the landfills. Good. I mean, I'll credit them for that.
We got to have a EPA. We got to have a DOT. We got to have rules. And we got to have regulations on what we do with waste.
Yes.
But
Okay.
there
I'll agree to a point.
there is a way to destroy people and to get to that impossible thing to do with waste that you can't do. I mean, like plastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's all right to put it in a landfill, right?
Sure.
You can dump it in the ocean, right?
I don't think so. Well,
they do.
In Indonesia, and they do. And
They
China,
do.
in India, they do, yeah. I'll tell you, let me just say, since we're talking about that.
Islands. They got islands floating around.
Right. And what did we do here? These people in California said, oh, no more plastic straws, because they were all going to the ocean. I say, my ass they are. Okay? That waste that's out in those oceans, okay, did not come from America. Way less than 1% of that came from here. And I'll tell you why, okay? We'll get this. All of that stuff came from Asia, from India, Indonesia, China, okay? And do you know why? Because, well, with the exception of China, those are poor countries over there, okay?
Yeah.
They don't have landfills. They don't have the money to invest in that kind of infrastructure, to take all their trash and put it in a landfill somewhere, which of course, those are not perfect either, but it's better than dumping it in, in the river. And so that stuff that goes out there, okay, is all, it doesn't come from America. And do you know why? Because rich countries are clean, okay? Poor countries are dirty.
Yeah.
That is
Well,
that's just a matter of the fact.
I've been to Brazil. You know that river runs through Sao Paulo?
Is that Amazon? Or is that a different one? Is that the Amazon River or is
No,
a different
no,
one?
no,
Okay,
no. It's
I don't
just the river runs through
Okay.
Sao Paulo. I can't think.
Right.
When I was over there, they had Japanese down there trying to clean the river, and they got places all over Brazil with hundreds of acres, poor people.
Right.
You don't see many pigeons over there because the poor people kill them and eat them. But I mean, all that sludge, all that feces, all that
Exactly.
crap running in that river.
They don't have sewer systems and water treatment plants. I mean, and that's, well, I will credit one thing for that, okay? Socialism.
Yeah.
In capitalist countries, and capitalism ain't perfect either, but at least here, we have clean water. We have clean air.
We got part 2 coming up. We're going to take a break.
Views and opinions expressed on all Talkin' Live presentations are those of the host and their guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of the Talkin' Live TV broadcast studio, or by this channel or its management.